It's been a really, really interesting week so far, and rounding it off on Saturday, fantastic card. We'll do the hard race first. It's the 3:35, like I say, the Betfred Ebor handicap. And Frank, before we get your tips, tell us how you're betting.
Fly Me to the Stars, our favourite at 6-1. Ivan Grozny 7-1, Magic Circle 8-1, then Scarlet Dragon, Top Tug and Dubcar 10-1, Nikita and Wild Hactor 12-1, and Soldier in Action Battersea 14s, and we're 16-1 bar.
And where are we on the each way terms? We've got got fifth place.
We're a fifth, 5 places in this.
Jolly good. Okay, James, you're the Friday debutant, so you go first. Who's going to win the Ebor?
Hopefully Nikita. That's the horse I backed anti-post. Likes York, has run well quite a few times there, including behind Magic Circle last season. I think it's about £3 better off with that horse. Plus, Callum Rodriguez has been booked, and that's taking off £5 as well. Trainer was second with a horse last year, so he's got good form in the race too. I think he's a good, solid stayer, good, solid each-way bet.
What price did you get?
I got about 33s.
Flash bastard. Kills, who do you like in the Ebor?
Yeah, I like 2 that ran at Royal Ascot in the same race. They were 3rd and 4th, Star Storm and Top Tug. Now, Star Storm's a bigger price, quite possibly because there's a little bit of a worry about him over the trip. But he ran over 2 mile, half a furlong at Newcastle in December, and he was running all over Winning Story at the 2 furlong pole. Clearly didn't stay. I think 1 mile 6 will end up being perfect for him. He's been staying on in his 2 races this season. First one, he was second to Desert Encounter in a listed race at Ascot. Now, the winner there has gone on and been 3rd in the Eclipse, has gone up loads in the weight since, and then Starstorm was 3rd to Rare Rhythm, not getting a run at Ascot. I just think that he might 1 mile 6 might be perfect for him. He's a strong traveller. I wouldn't put anybody off any horse on account of the draw here. He's drawn out wide. Now, high numbers have a good record winning in recent years, but I think it's fairly fair overall because loads of horses have gone close from low. And the other one is Top Tug, who is drawn 2. He was 4th in that race. Race around the outside all the way. He just wants a little bit further than 1 mile 4 furlong. He was very, very impressive when he won at Goodwood in May, and he was second to Frontiersman before that.
You do love an Alan King, don't you, Chris?
I do like an Alan King horse. I do like Alan King. I think he's an excellent trainer. He had a few winners over jumps recently as well, so I don't think there's anything wrong with the yard. And I just think Top Tug is a horse that has improved this year. He had no sort of race in this race last year, but he's got 3 very good runs to his name at York.
Okay, and James, it's nice, isn't it, going into this this final day, that we don't really have to worry about ground or whether it's going to rain or not. We know it's going to be good ground, don't we? There's no rain forecast, is there?
Well, the one I looked at this morning, there was a little bit forecast overnight, but only a little bit.
Oh, actually, that's a question we should ask, because we've all got our own favourite weather app. What's yours?
I like the BBC. People knock it up. It's worked for me.
Okay, jolly good. Kills, what's your one again? ARNK or something, isn't it?
YR.NO.
YR.NO, the coolest web address in the world. Frank Hickey, without further ado, who's your Ebor fancy?
Well, I had a look at it this morning. I narrowed it down to 4. And I'll go in order. I think Natural Scenery ran a cracker Northumberland Plate. I think she will win a decent handicap, probably small but better in your weather. So then I had a look at Magic Circle, who was very impressive Wednesday, but it's a big ask to back it up 3 days later in a race like this, but I could see him running well. Then the two that interested me were Nikita, who's finished 4th and 2nd twice in 3 runs at York. Second, Die Harold, who will win today, I think, earlier in the season. And I think he'll go very well. But I think for win purposes, who I think will win is actually Battersea, who was he was 4th last year off £2 higher. Roger Varon has gone for David Egan to claim 5 off. He's very capable. So in effect, he'll be running off 100 here. He hasn't won now since Maidan last February, but that was off, I think, 98. He won really well. He was gelded over the winter, came back at Ascot in the Sagaro Stakes. He was held up off a crawl, had no chance. They've held him back for this. He's got a decent draw on 15, as Paul alluded to earlier. High draw is perfect, perfectly fine. I can see him going really well, and 14-1 is a very nice each way price.
Are you going to be getting the scatter gun out, Frank, or are you just going to focus on 1 or 2 of those 4, do you think?
I'd probably have a small bit each way in Nikita, and I'll have a bigger each way bet in Battersea.
Do you go for the old glory shot with the tri-casts and everything as well?
I never do, no.
Don't you?
No, it's not something I don't think I've ever done it.
Really? Blimey,
No.
I should be doing your 4 in forecast and tricast. We'll start with or we'll move on rather to the first of the televised races, the 155. It's the Betfred Mobile Strensall Stakes over a mile and a furlong, and it's a Group 3. And Frank, take it away with the betting.
Yeah, Mondial East is 11-4, Mustachery 3-1, Master of the World 5-1, Make Time 11-2, Sovereign Debt 6-1, Forest Ranger 12s, and Gabriel is 14.
Kills, we'll start with you simply because there's so many old friends here. I mean, you must be getting a little bit dewy-eyed at the thought of all these lovely horses running against each other. Who are you going to go for?
Yeah, there are a few old favourites here. Obviously, I love Gabriel, and Sovereign Debt's been in brilliant form this year. But the one to be on, or at least it was the bet of the week earlier in the week when some bookmakers were going 7-1, is Mondial East. It's funny because we've got the mile race, the Celebration Mile at Goodwood on the same day, and this race was full of horses that were entered in both races. And Mondial East only had this one on his radar, and he was always going to run here, and all the others among the favourites weren't, and that's what's turned out. And he's now sort of 11-4 favourite, which I think is the right price. He won this race a couple of years ago. He's right back to almost his very best last time when he probably found the trip a little bit too far. He was beaten a nose by Success Days, who got the run of the race out front and battled back and just got back up. But I think if Mondial East is still at his best, he'd take the world of beating.
So the 11-4 still value, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's still a reasonable bet. I mean, I wouldn't be chunking on. I had a decent each way bet on him earlier in the week at 7s, but obviously now there's only 7 runners and he's 11-4. But I do think he's the most likely winner. Okie
doke, James, what do you fancy?
It's a tough little opener. It's between Mondial East and Mustachery, I think. And I always prefer to go with a more younger, improving type of horse. He wouldn't want any rain at all, so it's got to remain dry for him. But if it keeps drying out, he should get the trip fine. He stays very well and looks to be going in the right direction. So
Mustachery for James. Who for you, Frankie?
Yeah, I priced this morning, and I was shocked Mustachery isn't fav, to be honest. What he did at Chelmsford was quite remarkable. He was out the back, looked to be in a terrible position, and managed to mow them all down the outside, beating Matham Star and Manson, who are decent enough yardsticks. If you go back to last year, he was second in that Clipper Logistics handicap that was run yesterday. He was second, only beaten half a length by Firmament. He'd like the Spark Plug and Fanciful Angel behind, so it was a decent enough renewal. He looks like, I know it's kind of cliche, but your typical improving 4-year-old from Sir Michael Stout. I think he should be fav, and I think he'll win.
225 is the Betfred Melrose handicap, mile and 6, and wide open. Frank, how do Paddy Power bet?
Yeah, Intellect is 13-2, On to Victory and Secret Advisor are 8-1, Bin Batuta 9-1, Master Singer, The Grand Vizier 10-1, Here and Now and Northwest Frontier are 12-1, and we're 14-1 bar.
Frank, you can go first. It's your go.
Yeah, this is one I put up a couple of weeks back at Ascot, and I don't think it's time to give up on him just yet. It's a horse of Ed Walker's called Dark Pearl. He was third that day at Ascot, but there was an unexposed horse of Godolphins that day beat him, called Royal Associate. He was really chucked in, and the second Niblawi has run really well since as well, and the fourth has come out and only been beaten a neck or half a length since. Dark Pearl probably didn't handle the soft ground because he was keen enough and didn't get home. I think the return to a little bit better ground. I think 83, he's not an 83 horse. He'll be over 90 at least, possibly even close to 100 come maybe this time next year. He's a big price as well. I think he's like 20-1.
You've got him in at 16s.
16. I think there's as big as 20s out there. I'll definitely be having an each way bet on that.
And you're 5 places again, 50 odds there. So
we
that's
are, yeah.
Good. Okay, James, what's your Melrose fancy?
Yeah, there's I think a very interesting horse at the bottom. A horse called Radician. Had one bit of very good form as a 2-year-old when he ran in the Zetland behind some horses which have now proved to be top class. One of them was a certain Derby winner called Wings of Eagles. So that's very good form. He's since switched from Peter Chappell-Hyam to David O'Mara. He was given an Irish Guineas entry at the start of the season. He's stepping up a lot in trip. He's going up from 1.25 miles, but he seems to be finishing his races off well. So he definitely needs a step up in trip of some degree. and he potentially, I think, could be very well handicapped.
And he's 33-1, James.
Yeah.
Aye.
I mean, Bin Battuta at the top of the weights would be a more solid pick. I mean, that won very nicely, I thought, at Ascot, coming from wide last time out. But I would definitely recommend a saver on that horse. He just does look very interesting.
That's Radician, number 18. Kills, what do you reckon?
That was the Radician trained by David O'Meara. I nearly said Mark O'Meara then. David O'Meara. And I like his other one, Shimkent. He's booked Harry Bentley for it. He was successful, I think, on Magic Circle earlier in the week. Now, he was obviously quite well regarded. He started off with Roger Varian, moved, same ownership, moved over to O'Meara, won his first maiden, and then Then O'Meara ran him in the Cocked Hat Stakes at Goodwood, the last of the classic trials, if you like, which was won by Khalidi, and he didn't show anything, but he came back out and he won next time, and he got outpaced at Royal Ascot, ran on late, and then he ran at Goodwood last time, and he got no sort of run at all. And was finishing really strongly late on, and I just think the two of the horses that finished in front of him, Walton Street, the winner, is quite clearly miles ahead of his mark. He was a once race maiden winner who just absolutely bolted up, and Londinium was second, who was trying to go for a quick double that Mark Johnson often pulls up. I think that's really solid handicap form. And I think Shimkent is absolutely crying out to go up another couple of furlongs. There's plenty of stamina on the dam side, and I think there's.
You right there, Kills?
Yeah, sorry, I've got a bit of a dry throat, mate.
Okay,
so
mate.
I'm chunking away on the water here, but it's not really helping.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll take it. You've made a very convincing case for Shimkent, so we'll move on to the Jim Crack, and we'll get the other two's view, so you can glug a bit of water down
glug away, and
come back fresh with your Jim Crack Stakes. So 3 o'clock ITV. It's the Albasti Equiworld Jim Crack Stakes, one of the most prestigious 2-year-old races, 6 furlongs. And again, it's a really competitive affair, this, Frank, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Headway is our favourite at 7-2. Then Card Sharp and Nebo are 9-2. Invincible Army 6-1. Frozen Angel 8-1. Sands of Mali 10-1. Nobleman's Nest 12-1. And we're 16-1 bar.
Wide open this one, James. You got a strong fancy?
Not a strong one, but I think a horse of a good each-way chance is Frozen Angel. I think that was his first run last time over 6 furlongs in the Phoenix Stakes. But I thought he did really well there. He was stuck out on the wing, finished better than anything else. And his form's working out pretty well. I mean, he was behind Unforgettable and another horse, Savannah Grey. I think they finished first and second in the Pre-Morny last weekend, Group 1. So he would have as strong a chance as any. I mean, it's fairly open. Headway probably has the best form of all in the Coventry. But Frozen Angel, I think, has got potential to improve again over this trip.
OK, Frozen Angel for James Hill. What about you, Frankie?
The likes of Headway, Nebo, Card Chap, they set the standard. Card Chap has to give a £3 penalty away. One that interested me at a bit of a price was Richard Fahey's Sands of Mali. Now, he was down the field in 7th on his debut here in the maiden, but he didn't run without promise, and he went to Nottingham then next time, and he absolutely bolted up, and it was very impressive too how he did it. He went out in front. The second came up to him about the furlong pole, looked like he was going to cruise by him, and he just kicked and went again. And he's won by nearly 4 lengths in the end. Mightily impressive. Now, it's all the more impressive to consider the second has gone on and won a listed race at Newbury since. So while on the bare numbers you would think he's got an awful lot to find with the likes of Nebo and Card Sharp and Headway, this race it's not unusual for a bit of an outsider to win.
And there's a lot of fairly exposed horses here as well, isn't he? He's one of the less exposed, isn't he?
He's most definitely one of the less exposed. I actually thought the return to slightly better ground might even help him. He's by an American sire. I don't know much about breeding, but normally they prefer a little bit of better ground. So I think we're 10-1. There's as big as 14s out there. I will have an ability to add that, to be honest.
Kills, have you composed yourself?
Yeah, just about. Yeah, but I've got this tickle in the back of my throat, so it might come back. So
OK,
we'll
tell us the name of the horse and then the why. And if you pull up halfway through.
Well, like Frank said, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the unexposed types did sort of improve, because a lot of the ones that have run a fair bit, they don't set an absolute standout sort of standard, but having said that, I do think Headway is by far the most likely winner. I mean, I'd completely rule out his run at Goodwood on the soft ground beyond Barricaro last time, and I just don't think he quite had the run of the race in the Coventry. He only got beat ahead by Raja Singh, which I was quite pleased about at the time because I was on Raja Singh, but that was on fast ground, and I think the more it dries out, the more it'll suit him, and I think he's a strong traveller, and I do think he's the most likely winner. He's probably the right price now.
You think Harry Bentley's going to have a good day then, Kills?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Anything else at York for you, James? Not your nap. Keep your nap dry, okay?
Keep my nap dry. Yeah, there's a few towards the end, particularly like in the last race, Copper Knight. Tim Easterby Yard seems to be in really good form. So I think that one can defy top weight. In the listed sprint, Out of the Flames, I think probably got the best form. So I'll go for that one.
That's in the 410.
That's in the 410. And then the penultimate one, the Jack Berry, 440. Nicholas T. Has always looked the type to improve for a step up in trip. So, I mean, he has run over this trip before, but I think now he's maturing a bit. This sort of mile and a quarter will be more his distance.
And another Callum Rodriguez. Okay, Frank, anything else at York for you?
A horse that I've tipped up a few times, and he will win a big one, and I'm hopeful that'll be tomorrow, is UAE Prince.
Oh, yes.
As in, he looked all over the winner of the John Smith's Cup. It was kind of galling. He took it up maybe about 2 furlongs out, and he had them. He looked like he was just hanging on, and then the last 50 yards, 3 of them went by him. He's only beaten a length. Then a go with the last time, he was a bit more restrained. But he got slightly impeded when trying to make his effort. Again, he's finished 4th, beating 2 1/4 lengths. Back to York, Harry Bentley might be in for an unbelievable day. I think this has to be involved. I'd imagine it'll be some sort of an each-way price. I'll be getting right stuck into
That's
this.
the UAE Prince in the 440. Kills, was that you clearing your throat, or was that the dog I could hear?
That was the dog. Sainsbury's has just turned up with a shop. So
is your wife there to administer things, or do you have to
no, but my
answer the
daughter
door?
is. No, she went out.
Good.
So we've got
Zoe
that
Lee's
planned.
in charge, yeah?
Yeah, she's in charge. Yeah.
Righty-ho. Okay, anything else at York that isn't in that that we should be backing?
Yes, Baydar in the 440. Now, I'm sort of kind of hoping that the bookmakers will look at these form figures of 7-0-0-0, and rather than the way he actually ran at Goodwood last time, because he would have gone very close in that opening race on the first day. He was beaten 5 3/4 lengths, 11th of 16 in the end, but he got no sort of run whatsoever. Now, at the end of last season, he was massively improving. He beat Scarlet Dragon at Newbury in September in a really, really good handicap. That was when Scarlet Dragon was rated 99, and he's 110 now, and amongst the market leaders for the Ebor. That was off levels, and Baydar is now only within £1 of that mark because he's dropped back to that sort of rating. And I just think he's miles better than he looked at Goodwood last time. And as long as the ground doesn't get too fast. Now, he has one on good to firm, but he does like a little bit of ease. As long as he don't get too fast, I think he's a massive player. The only thing I say is he didn't actually travel that well until the latter part of the race at Goodwood. So Hugo Palmer's put cheek pieces on for the first time. I think that's a good move, and I think he's going to be a massive player.